What is up? Welcome to Gentlemen of the Corax. We have a really cool episode today. This is the Marine Formation March Madness. So, what we're going to be doing is pitting up geologic formations that happen to be from ancient marine environments and putting them head to head. We're going to be ranking them based on things such as uniqueness, preservation, their fauna, and basically just how cool we think they are. And by the end of it, we'll have our one king marine formation by the end of it. So this is going to be a really cool episode.
This is really useful because in a fossil forum that I'm in, there's this thread that started recently where they're ranking the greatest Lagerstätten per period. So I have a nice list I can just look at.
But these are marine. All the best Lagerstadt are freshwater.
Well, I don't know. We actually have a couple today in the list. We'll see.
So our first contenders are the Niobrara Chalk versus the Cleveland Shale.
Dog, I forget that we're gonna have to be eliminating each other.
Yeah,
All right.
Oh my
you and I
God.
are definitely going to come out shooting hard for the Niobrara.
Me too, dude. Me too. I would like to mention this is a hot take, but I think I can support it somewhat well. I think the argument can be made that the Niobrara is a Lagerstätte because there are some excellent soft tissue complete sharks. There's multiple Cretoxy at least one or two squally corax that I know of. There are mosasaurs with soft tissue, like a Tenosaurus, and lots of soft tissue platycarpus that have been preserved. I'm just saying the Niobrara is insane for soft tissue preservation at times. So, in my opinion, anything that can be called a Lagerstätte gets huge bonus points in my book, and that's something that we should think about.
Yeah, well, the Cleveland Shale kind of is like one of the quintessential Lagerstättens, especially for marine.
No,
So the,
Yeah,
the Cleveland Shale.
it is.
So this is a late Devonian Lagerstätten, and it's like famous. It's in Ohio, and the most iconic Devonian animal of all time, Dunkleosteus, is from the Cleveland Shale. We also get some really cool chondrichthyans like Clattersalake. We get some larger chondrichthyans like Tinacanthus. We have some other placoderms like Titanichthyes. So we get some really crazy stuff in the Cleveland Shale. And for those that don't know, the Niobrara, in comparison, I think it's probably most famous in Kansas,
yeah,
but that would be late Cretaceous. So that's why we have more developed like true sharks. Like lamniforms are very prevalent, Cretaxirrhina, Cretalamna, Squalochrax, for example. We also do get Tychotus from there, which is a Duraphagous lamniform. And then mosasaurs are also one of the coolest animals from the Niobrara, plus Encotis and Zephactinus, things like that.
Well, I think it really comes down to kind of what are you interested in? Are you interested in the very, very beginnings of modern ocean ecosystems with like the early shark relatives and stuff? Or are you interested in the start of modern ones where you're starting to get lamniform sharks more specifically? But then again, you have, like I said, you have Dunkleosteus. And as far as I know, the only place we have Dunkleosteus from. Meanwhile, mosasaurs, if you remember the Niobrara, we have them everywhere else. So there's some good debates to be had both way, I think.
I
Because if it
think
wasn't for the Cleveland Shale, I don't think we would have realized how large some of these um, placoderm, bony, armored fish could have gotten.
I would like to mention though that we have to remember the Niobrara, that was the hoedown throwdown between Cope and Marsh. A lot of that happened in Kansas over the Niobrara. And so it's very historically significant. It's where many of the first outside of New Jersey in the east, once westward expansion was kind of going on at a full tilt, that's where in the west people were first finding really big animals. And yeah, historically, it's very relevant. I know the Cleveland Shale might be, but I don't know anything about anything Paleozoic. So might be shooting myself in the foot saying that we should also think about the history of some of these.
Yeah, so I was going to say I'm definitely Team Niobrara here, but I do know that the Cleveland Shale has been producing fossils and known to be fossil producing for somewhere between 140 and 180 years. Definitely like Civil War period was when I think Jonathan Mayberry and then John Dunkel, who Dunkleosteus is named after, they started pulling stuff out of there. But a point in favor of the Niobrara is that the Cleveland Shale is not very fossiliferous except for the lower portion.
Mm.
The Niobrara, there are tons of different horizons that put out mosasaurs and fish. And also the Niobrara is the place to find Western Interior Seaway fish, at least articulated ones. So you have Zaphactinus, which is the big one, which has the fish within a fish fossil of a Zaphactinus that's about 18 feet long that swallowed a Gillicus, like a smaller relative. And it's in the Sternberg Museum in Hays, Kansas. And allegedly, it's the most photographed fossil in the world since it was discovered in, I think, the 40s. It's been on display since then. So I would say that's a point in favor of the Niobrara over the Cleveland. But Dunkleosteus is cool.
I will say though, you guys are talking about oh well, it has this history of Cope and Marsh. Yeah, those two guys who are still trying to figure out all of the issues they made in paleontology.
They're iconic.
I will say, I think
they're like deeply part of the history of American paleontology. Plus, like right now, I'm the fish I'm studying right now for my paper right now is, it's been discovered in the Niobrara and named after Marsh. Like to this day, we're still working on specimens that go way back to these two dudes. So yeah, even though they sucked, low-key, like, I don't know. I think it's an interesting history to consider.
So what I think of with the Niobrara is, while it's not necessarily one of the most unique formations, at least faunally, it is probably one of the best representatives of its type, like with these late Cretaceous marine deposits. Whereas the Cleveland Shale is an extremely unique formation. We do get other Devonian Lagerstättens, like in Morocco, for example. There's one that I talked about with Christian Klug on an Elasmocast podcast, that you can find some similar fauna to. They find Titanichthys there. They find Tinacanthus. They find Dunkleosteus. But overall, the preservation in Cleveland Shale is so good. It's a different type of preservation than and articulation than what's found in those Moroccan ones. But yeah, how large are the largest mosasaurs within the Niobrara? Because when we're thinking about the Cleveland Shale, like the apex predators, where you have Tinacanthus and you have Dunkleosteus, Dunkleosteus has significantly been shrunk. So we're looking at an animal that's, probably pushing like 14 feet compared to 30 feet.
It gets big. So
like 45 feet, I would say.
Yes, 45 feet.
Yeah.
That's Tylosaurus prorigor is the largest mosasaur in the Niobrara. And I think the largest preserved specimen that we have of a prorigor is just somewhere around 40 feet as far as I'm. There might be bigger ones. I'm not totally sure. But yeah, no, they're big boys. They're 40 feet and probably more. There are probably way bigger ones that we haven't found yet. So.
Yeah. Plus, Zaphactinus at least is the largest, like strictly carnivorous bony fish that we have. Like, I guess you could say that like Leedsichthys or something like that is bigger, but it was a filter feeder. Same thing with Bonarichthes, which is a filter feeder, or one of the last filter feeders from that same lineage, which actually has been found in the Niobrara. It was named, I think, 5 or 6 years ago. But Zaphactinus, in terms of carnivorous fish, that's the biggest one.
I'm just saying.
Cretoxyrhina got huge too. I mean, you're talking about a shark that's probably at the max end approaching 30 feet long around.
Yeah.
So they get huge. Like that tooth I was telling you, Jared, that was over 3 inches long. That came from the Niobrara chalk.
Yep.
So that was a big shark.
And the Niobrara captures the time where Cretoxyrhina was the largest. Cretoxyrhina seems to have reached its peak in not only size, but how prevalent it was in the ecosystem around like the Coniacian. It started dwindling in the Santonian. Like late Coniacian is probably like when Cretaceous was king, and the Niobrara captures the Coniacian and Santonian stages of the Cretaceous period very well. Plus, off the top of my head, I can't think of any other or any Lagerstätte from the Santonian.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. Yeah.
So you know what? I can try and quote it off the top of my head, or I can just be all right, Google this and be precise. So, according to the British Geological Survey, for the beginning of the Coniacian, we are talking 86.3, sorry, 89.8. It terminates 86.3 million years ago. The Santonian begins 83. Yeah. So for the Santonian, it's 83.6 to 86.3. That's a tongue twister. If I was dyslexic, I would not be able to read that. Holy moly. But yeah, so roughly the time period between 83 to 89 million years ago, the Niobrara captures very well. And I can't think of any other marine formations that capture that specific time period of the Cretaceous.
Well, I think also you're forgetting one big knock against the Cleveland Shale.
What?
It's in Ohio.
Ooh, true.
Oh my God.
Ooh.
So
That's it. Niobrara wins.
Niobrara wins. Let's go, baby.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Cleveland or Niobrara?
Niobrara. Yeah.
I really did want to try and fight for Cleveland, but
Plus,
I still like the Cleveland though. That's my thing.
I mean,
think
it's a fantastic formation.
yeah,
Yeah.
but like this is a hot take and a half. I feel like there's more like evolutionarily interesting things going on in the Cleveland Shale than there is the Niobrara.
Yeah.
That's
I-
a good point.
I would also tend that way. I think there's more
Mm.
ecological stuff you can do in the Niobrara, but I think when you're looking at evolution overall, I think the Cleveland
Yeah,
is more interesting.
and I guess it
So we
comes
make it
down
a 2-4
what it comes down to for me is like, I mean, I get that like the Niobrara is one of the only Coniacian marine units that produces a ton of fossils, but then it's like the Cleveland Shale has all these like near stem elasmobranchs and all these really interesting placoderms that don't, last very long after, and it's like, well, which one?
Hope.
But like Titanichthyes is there as well, right? So you're getting
Yeah.
these big things that are similar size, if not maybe even slightly larger than Dunkleosteus,
Mhm.
but are filter feeding instead. So it's really just showing like this first time you're starting to get vertebrate faunas in the Paleozoic that are doing all of these things. Because before the Devonian, you're looking at radiodonts doing like the filter feeding. And so you're really starting to see vertebrate fauna start to dominate the oceans in the
I
Cleveland
will
Shale.
say that on the topic of fish, that there are tons of very charismatic Paleozoic fish, and also just chondrichthyans in general. But when you think of Mesozoic fish, at least the charismatic ones, almost all of them come from the Niobrara. So there's Zophanctinus, obviously. There's Protosphaerina, which is like a swordfish with like serrated fins. There's Incotus, the saber-toothed herring, even though it isn't actually a herring. Then you get stuff like Bonarichthyes, like a giant filter feeder. I'm definitely missing some. Jared, you can fill in here. But
What's
I
funny
can't think of
too-
any other time in the Mesozoic with like that many charismatic fish.
So we actually had in our last March Madness, the Marine March Madness, I think we had Factinus up against Dunkleosteus. So it's kind of a rematch.
True. I think Dunkleosteus won that one, didn't it?
Did, yeah. But I don't think Dunk is winning this time.
I don't think so.
Xiphactinus brought back up in the shape of a 40-foot lizard.
I defended Zophanctinus. I never thought that Zophanctinus should have lost that, but I was outvoted.
Choice.
So we have what, 4 for Niobrara versus 2 for Cleveland?
Fortunately.
So it looks like Niobrara will be moving on.
Beautiful.
Sad.
So that brings us to the Bangor Limestone versus the Tullabuck Formation.
Tell me about the Bangor limestone, because I can say a little bit about the Tullabuck, but I don't know much at all about the Bangor.
this isn't gonna
Couldn't
go.
find much
About
about
to, I'm about to argue against a wall.
Oh no.
Because if I'm gonna be
Please.
real, the Bangor is an amazing, amazing formation. But the Bear Gulch is like everything the Bangor is and more, and the Bear Gulch is coming up. So
Well,
I
tell us a little bit about the Bangor and like what's in it, how old it is. There.
so it's like it's this carbonate shelf. Essentially, it's Serpicovian, so it's I think like 325-ish million years old. It's late Mississippian. It's this interesting carbonate shelf that you get a lot of these patch reefs on, and it basically has this super crazy, crazy Chondrichthyan diversity. I've found, as it stands, 40 separate taxa from
Oh
the
my God.
formation alone. Um, but based on kind of culminated faunal counts from other places like Mammoth Cave and like the Bear Gulch, I estimate there should be about 75 different Chondrichthyan taxa there. But we do find some stuff with like partially articulated cartilages. Like recently, we found a piece of a Meckel's cartilage with associated neurocrania pieces, but I don't know. The Tulabuck is the Tulabuck. That's the problem here, and I say that having published on the Bangor. So
Yeah, I think that
But
the big thing going for the Bangor are the Cyvotus stratus. That's kind of
Mhm.
like the pinnacle of the
Yeah,
Bangor.
and we find big ones. Some of the biggest Cyvotus ever found have come from the Bangor. It's there in Scotland. We get like 2+ inch tooth bases, which is like a monster animal.
Yeah, and
And so
Cyvotus
Cybotus
is
is
it's a tenocanth, so they were kind of like Tenocanthus that we were talking about in the Devonian, but they have these really cool teeth, Cyvotus, with all of these really minute lateral cusplets that are in between the principal cusp and their more prominent lateral cusplets. It's a really, really cool design. The Toolbuck, though, is in my opinion, on another level. Like the most famous taxa from the Toolbuck is Kronosaurus. So that's, one of those large pliosaurs with that huge head. One of them is in that museum that's in Boston.
mm,
Outside of that, you have those Cretaceous Ichthyosaurs platygyrus. I think that's the name of it.
Platypterygius australis is the main one found in the Tulabuck. And here's the thing, like Cretaceous ichthyosaurs are pretty rare, especially as the Cretaceous marches on. And if I remember correctly, the Tulabuck is Albian in age, right?
Yes. So it's early Cretaceous.
But right at the end of the early Cretaceous, so it's 113 to 100 million years old, and by the end of the Cenomanian, the ichthyosaurs are gone. That's the following stage. So the fact that it has such a high abundance of ichthyosaurs right at the end of when ichthyosaurs existed, plus a bunch of really really nice fish like Kuyu and Dugaldea skeletons that are found nicely articulated. There's this guy on Instagram, Trav Fossils. He does a lot of hunting in the Tulabuck Formation and makes like really good quality videos of it. It's addicting. I would love to go there. It's this Australian formation in Queensland, for those who don't know. And out of the Cretaceous formations in Australia, I think it's probably the most famous, probably the most productive as well.
I was going to say that in the research that I did for it today, it pretty much came across as this is the formation in Australia for Mesozoic marine reptiles. None even come close to touching it. There's plesiosaurs, there's ichthyosaurs, there's pliosaurs like Kronosaurus, and also there's weirdly like 6 or 7 taxa of pterosaurs, since I
Mm-hmm.
think it was like a lagoonal environment. There's also these really big sea turtles. There's at least 2 or 3 taxa of those. So it's a lot more diverse than I originally thought it was. Because I mean, it's famous for Kronosaurus, and your average person doesn't know much beyond that. I definitely didn't.
Yeah, the Bangor's big elasmobranch that would be macropredatory would be Cyvotus. In the Tulabuck, we have an undescribed cardobidontid that apparently was very large. They're a very small tooth shark, so their vertebrae are much larger with like in comparison to their teeth than say like what's in a great white, which means that these proportionally were larger sharks, and they were one of the largest early Cretaceous sharks pretty much out there, and they would have been a macropredatory shark. You see, in the Cretaceous, after them, you would have other sharks like Cardobiodon within that family that are also macropredatory, but one of the oldest cardobiodontids that we know of comes from the Tullabuck. And then there's also cool ones like Peraesurus has been found there. There's some small bramble sharks like Echinorhinus found there. So there's some pretty decent chondrichthyan diversity too.
But you got to look at the rest of the diversity, not just the big animals. So, like, the Bangor has some really nice crinoids, and it's Mississippian, Pennsylvanian, Carboniferous, Mississippian, which is kind of like when you're starting to get crinoid forests taking over reef systems. So it's very indicative of what you're kind of expecting. And because the preservation of these crinoids is so good, you're actually getting a better insight into how some of those ecosystems might have worked. Additionally, you're getting things like certain kinds of ammonoids, specifically the gonadiate Billinguites, which is really important because when we're thinking about ammonites, they have these little lines all through their shells that can tell us a lot about the evolution of just that group, but also the time period they're coming from. So this is one of these really important fossils for starting to establish using ammonites as index fossils for what time period you're in. So I think it kind of comes back to it like where it did last time, where I'm like, this is actually really important for the overall understanding of geology, as opposed to having just some really good insights into a few taxa.
Zeke.
The Bangor definitely beats the Tullabuck in invertebrates any day. From what I was able to find, the Tullabuck has some gastropods and maybe a few ammonites, and other than that, there is nothing invertebrate that's been found there.
Zeke, you were speaking to marine reptile and shark researchers. like,
listen, if you didn't take Introduction to Paleontology where you learn about all of these animals, that's on you.
We're gonna be biased to big scary things with teeth, so
there's some interesting parallels between the Tullabuck and the Bangor. Particularly, you get some really iconic animals that are kind of pittering out. For example, those ichthyosaurs are kind of on their way out.
I was gonna say even like Kronosaurus, because like the short-necked plesiosaurs basically die out once the mosasaurs start moving into the oceans, as far as I know. So I think, yeah, like that's a really good example of like, yeah, you have things that are just starting to decline.
Mhm.
And you kind of have
seemingly.
You have similar stuff in the Bangor too. I mean, I guess technically Cyvodus, the genus itself, doesn't make it inherently through to the Pennsylvanian. I mean, the Permian Neocyvodus would like to have a word, but we still don't have the linking. But you have a lot of like primitive forms of some very, very, very iconic Paleozoic, particularly chondrichthyans, that come through. Like we've got some of these really primitive xenacants that are starting to show up, and then we've got primitive Glycmanius, which becomes a mainstay in the Paleozoic later down the line. Eugenodonts, you have a couple undescribed eugenodonts that are kind of making their way onto the scene. So I guess scientifically, the Bangor limestone is very important. It kind of captures that transition from the Mississippian into the Pennsylvanian in a spot where you end up with active deformation from the Appalachians. So it's a really interesting case study. Does it make it more valuable than cool, scary, giant animals? What I'm wondering.
How's the preservation in the Bangor?
You get crinoid calyxes, at least in occasions. So it's decent.
You can find an unreasonable amount of really nice crinoids. I have found them all from pretty much holdfast to arms, just the whole thing, and people a ton of them. We do a lot of the biostrat in the Bangor based on the crinoids.
And
Some blastoids as well. You can get a lot of blastoids even with the pinnules, the little arms on the tops. You'll find whole brittle stars, whole starfish, whole edrioasteroids, which are another echinoderm. The invert. If we were putting a lot of weight into invert diversity, the Bangor wins because the invert diversity is unholy in the Bangor. So
Dude, yeah, I'm blown away by the
and I
brachiopod
want to put
diversity as well.
that's true. Yeah, crazy brack
Incredible.
diversity.
Well, and I want to put some context more specifically onto the crinoids, because
Hmm.
Northern Arizona University has been going to Coles Ranch locality for the Naco Formation for literally decades. And they have exactly one crinoid calyx, and it's not attached to the rest of the stem. It's not even perfectly articulated. It's broken apart and it's kind of lumped together. I know because I'm the one who found it, but it's the only one in the entire NAU collection. Finding a good crinoid with all of the pieces there is incredible preservation.
Found my first whole crinoid in the Bangor limestone 5 minutes into fossil hunting in the Bangor limestone, and it's right there. I can go grab it. Hold on, give me a moment.
While he does that, I think the conclusion we can make is that, let's be real, of the Cretaceous formations on here coming up that I've peeked at, the Tulibuck would lose the fastest. It doesn't have particularly exceptional preservation. I don't know. Like, what it's got going for it is that it's the best in Australia, but we're talking on a worldwide scale here.
Australia is pretty bad when it comes to fossil formations in general.
Yeah. And
Yeah, and like even like there's turtles in it. There's turtles in the Niobrara and a bunch of other places. Like,
yeah.
I
So-
agree.
Wow.
This is the crinoid.
Oh,
It
wow.
is.
That's
Yeah.
cool. I'm okay with the Bangor limestone on here. I know the Bangor limestone is going to lose to equivalent formations probably, but the Tulibuck is also going to lose to formations.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm going Tulibuck on this.
Oh my
it's-
god.
I'm going
What?
Bangor, baby. Let's go.
Same,
Banger all
same,
the
same,
way.
same. I convinced
what will
myself.
take the Tulibuck for me is just the fact that it has the 6 or 7 pterosaur taxa, which, as far as marine formations go, like that's pretty much like unheard of.
Yeah.
Like the Niobrara,
What?
you have like 2, and that's really stretching it. That's
I
like
thought
a
the
few
phosphates had a
specimens.
few. Morocco. Isn't there like 4 or 5
Oh, I didn't know that.
in the phosphates of Morocco? There's like a bunch of Dracos. There's 2 Quetz like
true,
guys and a
yeah.
bunch of small ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure there's a lot there.
Yeah. Also, I don't think the preservation in the Tulibuck is that great. Maybe it is for
No,
fish.
literally.
the
I
teeth are
think there might
beautiful.
be. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, the teeth are
Well, I know
nice,
with the
but
pterosaurs,
some of that other stuff is kind of
I know with the pterosaurs in the Tulibuck, it's like we have the Dentary and the Premax, or like just like the very
Oh my
tipiness now
God.
of like 3 taxa.
That's
And
like
we can
all
tell they're different.
pterosaurs.
But they're all like anhinguarids, where it's like, yeah, okay, cool, neat. They're slightly different from one another.
Yeah.
I don't know what else that means.
Some pictures. I'm looking at some pictures right now of like the fish skeletons from the Tulibuck, and as far as like a Lagerstätten goes, like it's not even close. Like it's
Yeah.
nothing to write home about. So I think I might have to throw in with the Bangor limestone here.
The Bangor makes caves. That is a thing, and then those caves have teeth.
So I guess the Bangor is moving up.
Yep.
Yeah.
So now our next one is the Favorite Formation versus Jared. You want to say that one?
Maastricht formation. Dude, I have some things to say about that, but I don't know anything about the favorite formation. So someone should enlighten
Same
me.
here.
Oh, we get to talk about the Triassic Kraken now.
Oh,
Oh yeah. So quick sound off. Who's heard of the Triassic Kraken?
I have not.
Okay, so is it only Jared that hasn't? Chase, have you heard of this? Okay, so we got 2 people who haven't. So in 2013, a researcher went to the Geological Society of America and went, listen, the Favorite Formation is this Triassic formation in Nevada that has a bunch of these really, really big ichthyosaurs, like Symbospondylus, which could get to at least 40 feet, if not maybe a little bit larger. There's some debate about it just because of how partial some specimens are. There's multiple species knocking about. Regardless, hey, look, they're all lined up in the same way. Clearly, what happened is a giant Triassic squid, which would have been intelligent, collected all of these and laid them out as uh uh like a bower bird would lay out its nest to try and attract females.
Bruh.
Obviously, this is not taken very seriously by most researchers, but
All
it
right.
is based on fossils from the Favorite Formation. And I do want to be clear, the Simaspondylus all being aligned is largely to do with currents and things because it seems like
Yeah.
they were coming here pretty regularly. There's a good size range of them, so I believe, or at least from what I am recalling, I think was published, it was probably some kind of like nursery area. So, they'd come here. Sometimes they'd die. Sometimes young ones would die. They'd sink, and the currents would just kind of align the bodies by chance.
Yeah, I have a site that I actually go to somewhat regularly. Well, not too regularly, maybe once a year, where any of the articulated fossils there that are found are usually facing the same direction. So, same reason, river current.
This is just the same thing, but marine.
Yeah, I was talking the same thing. It was probably close to like a river delta, and so that's why they're pushed in the direction they're pushed. But yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting.
Yeah. So more information on the Favorite is it's Middle Triassic in age. And it's basically an ichthyosaur bearing formation. That's what it's known for. It has a pretty high diversity for ichthyosaurs. One of the highest diversities in the world. Like Zeke said, there's Simospondylus, which are pretty big. They're great generalist macropredatory animals. You have a Durophagus Ophthalmosaurus, and the really cool one is Thalattoarchon, which has these really big chomping teeth. And those things, I think it was estimated at around 28 feet, but probably got a lot larger than that too.
Well, and going back to what Jared was saying about being close to shore, there's evidence that this was also moderately close to shore because there's a Pseudosuchian, which would have been basically a land croc that has been found in the Favorite Formation, and they think it got washed out to sea. So that was just described last year. It's from the Shoshone, so I apologize if I am butchering the terms for this, but it's Benguinguishinga Benguiguishinga Sukas from and so the Shoshone term is Bengui Gwishinga, and that just means catching fish, and then Sukas is Greek for crocodile. And so they're like, yeah, it was probably just hanging around shore catching fish and stuff, and then it just got washed all the way out. Um, but it's a neat fossil. It's one of these Poposaurids, which is this really kind of iconic, mostly Middle Triassic group. But I don't know. I just really like pseudosuchians, so that's part of the reason I like the Favorite Formation.
Interesting. Well, the Maastricht formation, I was actually fortunate to do some fossil hunting in there. Brendan was too, actually. I remember.
Yeah.
So we went to the like this is just by chance that we both went to it, but we went to the Mosasaur meeting in Maastricht, and this is a you wouldn't guess, but it's the type locality of the Maastrichtian age. And it's these limestones that were really good for building materials. So it used to be quarried in the 1700s all the way until the modern day. And it's where the first significant mosasaur specimens were found. Mosasaurus hoffmanni, the holotype, was found here and eventually stolen by Napoleon, which is so metal. And lots of other mosasaurs, lots of prognathodon species and whatnot. And it has some really interesting history because this first Mosasaurus hoffmanni that was found was one of Darwin's inspirations for thinking, hey, maybe things go extinct and evolve into things, and pretty important fossil to the history of paleontology. And we went. It's a productive site. It's not as productive as, say, the Niobrara, but the preservation of a lot of these mosasaurs is quite good. And hey, Brennan found something pretty cool. I found my first.
Oh, I've got it with me, actually. You guys might know what this is. When I found it, I freaked out. It was
Yeah,
one of
you
my
did.
first, I lost it. All the mosasaur researchers thought I found a mosasaur tooth and rushed over. I have no clue. I forgot what it was, but it's a really tall shark tooth. Yeah,
Is that
it was incredible.
Paleohypatotus?
That rings a bell. Paleo in front of it rings a bell.
Like a
Mhm.
like a sand tiger or
Yeah.
something. Because I know they made it past the boundary.
But yeah,
Paleohypatotus broni, which is
There we
the
go. Yeah.
Maastrichtian one. Yeah.
but yeah,
They didn't tell us we needed tools or anything. They were like, "Oh yeah, we're doing a field trip," and we get there and they're like, "We're gonna do some digging," and there's all us tourists without tools. So I get to work grabbing these big rocks and start smashing them on each other. That's how I found the tooth. And one of the other mosasaur researchers, Natalie, she's like, "If you find a Corinodens, you need to tell me. Find me a Corinodens skull." I was like, "Oh my God." I didn't find a Corinodens skull, but seeing them in the museum there were incredible. These little Durophagus mosasaurs. They're kind of like Globidens, but they've got corn kernel-like teeth. They're very unique.
Mm.
They're also first found there. Very significant. And then later throughout the world, there's some in I think Bulgaria and in Morocco, of course.
and
Yeah.
Maryland
Oh,
Yeah.
formation. Yeah,
nice.
So what Jared was saying about the holotype for Mosasaurus hoffmanni, I would say that it's almost impossible to understate how important that one fossil is. Because I mean, when you think of, I mean, it is one of the earliest like fossil specimens of anything known to science. I want to say like the late 1500s, or no, maybe the 1700s.
it was.
But it was what, yeah, but it was what led Darwin used it as one of his examples for extinction. It was what led Georges Cuvier, who described it, to believe, just like along with Megatherium, the ground sloth from South America, and then the mastodons from America. Those were the three things that made him like put forward the idea that like yeah, animals do in fact go extinct.
It was found
Yeah.
in 1764.
Yeah.
And it was cool being to the chalk quarry that had that. And like, bear in mind, this is a huge animal. Mosasaurus hoffmanni. There are some. Russell 1967 in his monograph of mosasaurs proposed this system where you can estimate length of mosasaurs for it's either a 1:10 or 1:11 skull to body length ratio. The reason it doesn't matter too much is because he didn't really support that in any way, but everyone kind of just went along with it. And that's why you see some estimates that are saying things like 60-foot long Mosasaurus hoffmanni. That's probably not the case, but 50 feet is reasonable. I can believe a 50-foot hoffmanni was swimming around. And again, there are lots of big mosasaurs here. There are big prognathodon species, and there's some new stuff being found.
Is Globidens been found there too?
Maybe Globidens.
Let me check the photos I took from the museum.
I
I have
feel
a
like
big-
I heard somewhere that it had been.
So anyway, yeah, Dutch Formation has hella history, has big animals in it. Of the Cretaceous formations, there are better ones. It's basically like, I don't know if you put up the Moroccan Maastrichtian formations, but they are like 10 times crazier than what the Maastricht formation is. But you know, it is worth your respect.
I would say
OG.
in terms of like actual faunal assemblage and preservation, that the Favorite wins. But in terms of historical significance, I mean, just the fact that it has like a whole stage of geologic time named after it, the Maastrichtian would win. So it depends on which of those you weigh more heavily than the other, I would say.
I'd rather go to the Favorite, even if I had
would
been to Maastricht.
Yeah.
I'd rather go to the Favorite.
I agree. I think it's so much more unique of a formation. Like even ichthyosaurs aside in their diversity, Triassic just isn't as prevalent, especially for marine formations, as Cretaceous is.
Yeah.
I
There's a
think that
ton of Maastrichtian formations,
yeah, but
frankly.
there isn't a ton of Middle Triassic marine.
No.
There's
What's-
hardly any Middle Triassic. I mean, I
Plus,
think
in Nevada, like, what's in Nevada? You have that, and then some Pliocene and Miocene outcrops, and like that's about it. Like,
you do get like the oh God, what is it? It's a Cambrian Lagerstadt.
in Nevada.
Yeah,
Oh.
in Nevada. Pioche, the Pioche Shale.
Oh,
Oh yeah.
there you go.
I'm
All
gonna
right.
go
Well,
Favorite.
Which
I Going favorite. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I like the favorite. Like, I love the favorite.
Awesome.
My other thing to mention about the Maastricht real quick, though, is Asterioris, which is somewhat linking ducks and chickens together as a fossil during the late Cretaceous before the rock hit.
Mm.
I was going to wait to see if it was going to come up against the Niobrara to say it comes down to the birds,
Oh
but
my god.
if we're getting rid of it, then yeah, I just want to do a quick shout out to important bird fossil.
Dope.
That's good. So our next one is the Samlot Formation versus the Pisco Formation.
Oh Lord.
What
So
is
the
it?
Samlot is a late Eocene formation. It's Priabonian. Think basilosaurs, think large sharks like Carcharocles sokolovi, for example. Even though it is Eocene, you still see some sharks that kind of resemble what we have today. There's a primitive Carcharinus from this formation. There's primitive hammerheads. There's primitive lemon sharks. But the main thing are those Archaeocete whales, and then you have your Carcharocles lineage. Whereas with the Pisco Formation, which is late Miocene and Pliocene, you see the actual, like, the king of the Carcharocles. You see Carcharocles megalodon. For whales, we have Leviathan as opposed to the basilosaurs. You have This is where that transitional great white Carcharodon hubbleyi was found. That really beautiful specimen that has all of those teeth connected to the jaw cartilages and stuff like that. And it's basically a Carcharodon histalis, which is an unserrated tooth that starts to serrate a little bit, but isn't fully serrated like Carcharodon carcharias, the modern day great white. And it was used to really link those two, even though it's pretty well supported that the Carcharodon histalis was the ancestor to the great white. This really just kind of solidified that. So yeah, it's a really cool formation.
Plus, for those who are listening who might not know, the Pisco is in Peru. I'm not sure where the same lot is. I think it's Egypt or something, right?
It's in the controversial territories of Morocco versus Western Sahara.
I understand.
There are basilosaurids from the Samlot, but it's not super clear whether Basilosaurus itself can be found there. But you can find it in Egypt, where you have, like, I think the Valley of the Whales is either in Egypt, is somewhere around there. Yeah.
Interesting. Well, all those photos that you guys might have seen before, like those super famous photos of paleontologists next to a road in the desert digging up articulated whale skeletons, that's in the Pisco. That's in Peru. Also, let's be frank. A lot of us are researchers, yes, but we have come in from a collecting background. We started as fossil.
Yes.
And we're always going to have a piece.
Called out.
Yes, we're always going to have a piece in our hearts that sees the insane colors and presentation of the Pisco Formation teeth. They look like they're on fire. It's crazy. Like they're the most beautiful fossil teeth in the world. I'm very
I would say the only thing that comes even close to it is like the megalodon teeth that you see kind of like Indonesia or like Java or something like that. Those are the only other ones that have that, like, striking, like, fiery red orange color. And then also in the Pisco, you have that marine swimming ground sloth. I think it's called Thalassanicnus.
Oh wow.
Which, yeah, that's crazy. But in that same vein, when I was doing research today, I couldn't find anything super specific, but it said that there have been proboscidean remains found in the Samlot, which is crazy if you have, like, bloat and float, like you do with, like, dinosaurs in the Niobrara. It'd be crazy if you have, like, bloat and float early elephant ancestors somehow traveling out into the ocean and getting mixed in with all this shark and whale stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, there's also potential soft body material cartilage from Megalodon in the Pisco, so I think that's going to kind of clear it. The fossil is unfortunately kind of the fossil for it is unfortunately kind of tragic because you look at it and it looks like there's the skull with a bunch of teeth out of the front, and then you look at there's a break in the rock and there's a bunch of vertebra behind, or a handful of vertebra behind it. The vertebra very clearly do not go with the specimen, right? Like they're just too small. But I believe it's got sold to a museum in Switzerland that's still working on it. So with any luck, we'll get some publication about that at some point, if it is legit or not. Um, but
Also,
hypothetically, it's there, is
also,
my understanding.
also, wasn't Perucetus found in the Pisco?
I think it was the underlying formation.
Okay, never mind then. But regardless, I think Pisco is still solos, dude. Like, I don't think anyone's gonna go.
Yes.
If you were to
Yes.
even take Megalodon out of the equation, like you have the Archaeocete whales and the Samlat, but you have such an insane whale diversity. And then I think you also have like pinnipeds, like you have seals, and you have a dolphin community there. So just like the cetacean community and the marine mammal community overall is way more diverse than in the Sandlot.
I'm gonna go
So
Pisco.
I'm gonna go with Pisco too, but in my research, I found two things. For one, I didn't know that the uppermost Samlot, gets into the Oligocene, which is really interesting, and it gets into the Oligocene as an estuarine deposit or estuarine, whatever, estuary deposit, and in that deposit, they found a coastal primate community.
What the?
So
What?
it's kind of really cool.
Dude.
But that's like not marine, and we're here discussing marine stuff, and I hate that a lot. So Pisco, it
Yeah,
is.
so what I'm finding on Perucetus is it's late Eocene, and then again, Pisco is middle Miocene to Pleistocene. So you're
Gotcha.
looking at a difference between them of 20 million years, 25 million years at least.
Yeah. You basically have that Eocene formation, then you have the early Miocene Chilcote formation, and then after that's the Pisco.
Gotcha. Yeah.
There's actually one more in there too.
Yeah.
Based on what I'm seeing just on a quick Google search, there's also the Otuma Formation in between the Yamake, which is where Perucetus comes from, and the what is it? Chilcote.
Hmm.
So there's one more in there too.
So we have the Pisco formation for the win. And then that brings us to the other side. And Brennan, this is
Oh,
kind of your specialty right here.
my
With the
babies are
Stephen
fighting.
formation
Oh.
versus the Northumberland.
I'm working on both these sites at the moment, so it's just, oh my God, no. I don't know which one to choose.
Tell us, where's the Stephen Formation and what is it? And where is the Northumberland Formation and
Okay,
what is it?
so Mount Stephen Formation is on Mount Stephen in Yoho National Park, which is in British Columbia, Canada, and it is probably the most, or arguably the most famous Lagerstätte in the world because it is the first occurrence and the best preservation of early Cambrian life. It is basically essentially our like guide to the beginning of every modern day order that we see, like worms, sponges, chordates, arthropods appeared, all sorts of things. So it was basically the well, they call it the Cambrian explosion. But a lot of these organisms did appear earlier. So Mount Stephen is about middle Cambrian, about 510 million years old. And I've been to sites that are a lot older that do have similar fauna. And I know the Xinjiang in China also has equivalent fauna as well. But Mount Stephen takes the cake for preservation level. They've got gut tracks, they got circulatory systems, eyes, brains, the first heart. It's incredible. In Northumberland, it's also in BC. It's on a small island called Hornby Island, which is off the coast of Vancouver Island, which is off the coast of Vancouver. And it preserves a deep water assemblage with some of the most diverse deep water sharks ever. I think there's like what, 25, 30 species there, right?
It's a lot. And it's really
Yeah,
cool
a
too
lot.
because these are deep water sharks that we don't really get very often in the fossil record because deep water environments are usually still deep water. So saw new families being described from the Cretaceous. That's not a very common thing for sharks. You have new
Oh,
families, let
holy.
alone
Yeah.
everything else. But you have, for example, the modern day frill shark in Hornby Island. We have a great white-sized frill shark called Dykeus garethi, which is monstrous. You see another frill shark. You see Ralphodon that has these really cool stocky teeth. Um, there's a bunch of cow sharks, some large ones like Zampilodon. There's your typical sand sharks. Those are pretty common. There's some mosasaurs that haven't really been worked on from there too.
There's about 4 or 5 different mosasaurs, which is incredible. Yeah, and they pulled out verts and spines and ribs from that lens, as well as there's an insane gastropod called Tesserolax, and it just looks like a big spiky star. But it's a snail, just a normal snail shell with all these spikes sticking out of it. It's insane. And there's been a dinosaur found, a ornithomimid toe.
Because it's a deep water formation, is the preservation like really good then?
I'd say the tooth preservation and bone preservation that I've seen is incredible. The detail level is insane. A lot of the shells have been washed from shallow water, so the shells mixed into this formation are broken up. There are some completes that look nice, but they could be in better condition. I've seen coral as well washed down there. That's eh. But the bone and teeth preservation is just nuts. Beautiful black teeth and bone. Pristine.
So,
So
is it enough to call it a Lagerstätten?
I was going to say yes. My question was also, is there soft tissue at all?
Ooh, I have seen plants preserved, if that counts, but the number of species preserved at the site is somewhere in like 100 to 150. A lot of it's unnamed, but yeah, the preservation of plants, plant tissue, wood, leaves, I think would kind of help it count, plus the diversity.
And I think it would be unfair to continue this without talking about the fauna from the steep information.
Oh,
It's already
It's
sold.
over.
I was already
It's
sold.
over.
yeah.
If we want to talk about soft tissue preservation, I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Like it's all fun and games. Give me this. Give me the Stefan formation. Come on now.
Okay, so Steven Formation is famous for Anomalocaris. That's where it was
Right.
first described, the killer claw. Now, I've actually found Anomalocaris' claw at a site nearby in Cranbrook, BC, which I've been searching for about 15 whole years of my life. So it was just incredible finding it. Um, and both the Stefan Formation and the site in Cranbrook are home to these cone-shelled fossils called hyalids. They occur in later rock like the Ordovician, but to me they're insane because these are related to brachiopods, but they convergently evolved into a snail-like living condition before snails existed. So one of the brachiopod shells grew out into a long cone, and then the other valve was a cap, and the lophophore actually convergently evolved into tentacles to pull itself through the water on the seafloor. So I think that's insane and really cool. A lot of people look them over as just, oh, it's a little hyalus shell, but they're crazy. Those guys are from Mount Stephen, and like I think 25, 30 different species of trilobite. Some of the most famous ones in the world, Olanoides, massive spiky trilobite. When you think of trilobite, that's like the trilobite you think of, I think, besides Phacops. And not to mention other famous critters, Opabinia, 5 eyes, a trunk. It's got these set of jaws on the front, completely alien. I think for Stefan Formation, this is the closest we'll ever get to exploring a different world because the organisms were so bizarre. A lot of them have no modern day relatives and just look like something from a different planet. So definitely a crazy time.
I really appreciate you bringing up the hyaliths because, like, I've seen drawings of them and I never really understood it and I never, like, just took the time to investigate it. And so you
Mhm.
explaining it, it's like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
I wish they
Um,
were still around, honestly. Oh, they'd be so fun to have as pets.
What are some of the other weird ones from there?
Hallucigenia and Woaxia. So Hallucigenia, when paleontologists first found it, they believed that it walked on these stilts on its back, these long spines, and it had these fleshy appendages on its back that it would use to grab particles out of the water. And it had this bulbous head, right? We now know the bulbous head was actually its guts. So when this thing got buried, the gut tract got squished out the butt and formed this dark stain behind it, which they interpreted as a head. And it was also upside down. So those stilts were actually spines on its back, which it would use to protect itself from large predators like Anomalocaris and Opabinia trying to eat it. And these fleshy limbs were actually used for walking on sponges. Very small, delicate. It also had 3 pairs of arms. So these 6 really long appendages on the front of its body, which it would use to grab food particles. It also had a really long neck, which I think was really cool. Tiny eye holes and a round mouth, suction mouth. So it was a very bizarre creature. And Wawaxia, we believe it's closely related to mollusks. So it'd be kind of like a sea slug with armor plates across its body. And it had these big spines on its back, kind of like Hallucigenia's spines, which it would use to protect itself, again, from larger predators. So very heavily armored sea slug. Very cool.
I have a little plush of a Wawaxia that's going snowboarding with me tomorrow. So
No way.
it's
I'm
great.
so
That's
jelly.
right. That's right. I flipped my my pass on.
You've got to take a photo of that. I'd love to see it.
I'm down
So-
for the Steven formation. I
Wait,
mean,
this one.
You can't not pick it.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm of
I was
two
gonna
minds.
like halfway through your talk, I was gonna be like, "Stop! Stop! The Northumberland's already dead! Stop!
No, I had to fight my hardest.
It's been done."
So the Northumberland formation is, in my opinion, one of the all-time best formations for extinct sharks because of the environment that's from and all of the cool shark taxa. But the right answer for this has to be the Stefan formation. So I feel like I have to go against my shark biases.
You have to be generous. I'm frankly, like, I would love to go visit the Northumberland formation, and I'd almost rather do it than go see the Stefan formation. But that's only because I'm a Cretaceous researcher. It's if I was just like objectively, if I was completely objective, the Steven is cooler. So yeah, Stefan formation, I guess.
I think we're in agreement.
Mm-hmm. Yay and boo.
Your next one is the Kaibab limestone versus the Posidonia shale.
What is the Posidonia shale? Who knows about
Yeah.
this?
The Posidonia shale
Jared,
is,
you
I
should know
believe,
about
German,
it.
right?
Yeah, this
Yeah.
is another. This is like the last one where it's a very similar matchup of hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby. I feel like anyway. The Posidonia, like if you just say like it's like better known as just like Holzmaden.
Oh yeah.
So like Central Europe, I think it's in Bavaria specifically within Germany, or actually no, that's Solnhofen. I think Holzmaden.
Solnhofen is there.
Yeah. Holzmaden extends across multiple countries. I think like Austria is one of the ones that it's prevalent in. But like some of the best soft tissue articulated ichthyosaurs and plesiosaurs ever found, period.
Yes. If you're thinking
can-
about like this is coming from someone who doesn't know this formation very well because I don't really study the Jurassic, so I feel like I can speak for the unwashed masses since I'm one of them. If you're thinking about beautiful, perfect soft tissue ichthyosaurs, there are a lot of formations that have them, but this is probably like the main one that has beautiful, perfect soft tissue crocs as well. Like this is, I know of this formation because I could just feel its aura from many
Pictures in a textbook, fossils.
Yes.
I mean, I'm pretty sure I can summarize why the Posidonia is so interesting in like one phrase, which is just ichthyosaur blubber.
Yes.
There you go.
Oh yeah.
You're done.
Oh
Yep.
my God.
Yep. That was, I think,
Yeah, that was a presentation at Maastricht, right?
yes, it was.
Yeah.
Well,
And-
it's been published now, I think.
Yeah, dude. Honestly, this is the Lagerstätten that every Lagerstätte wants to be. Like, this is, Lagerstätten.
It's at least close, yeah.
Lagerstätten,
Germany.
It's probably because of Holzmaden. Like, that's crazy.
What did Germany do to get all of these frickin' Lagerstätten?
Yeah.
Like, there's this one, and then the Messel, the I know the Messel. I don't
Dude,
recall. I think is not
Yes.
marine, but like,
Solnhofen
good
and this one,
lord,
yeah.
yeah.
And
Like, have you ever seen
Solnhofen.
the fossils from the Messel Formation? That stuff is crazy. You got like whole rodents. My buddy Chris has a bowfin. One of the Amids.
dude.
It's unreal.
Also, I sound like a fake fan because I actually there's a plesiosaur that was found in Holzmaden. I literally have it right now hanging on my wall as decoration, right there.
I was also just going to say I have an entire book just on the Messel. It's great. They made an entire book just on those fossils. So yes, it's a great
Ger-
letter.
Germany, come on.
Speaking on
Well,
the
that's
Share some.
invertebrate, speaking on the invertebrate front, Holzmaden is also famous for these gigantic lignified like driftwood pieces, like giant pieces of driftwood that have drifted out into the ocean, and they are absolutely covered from top to bottom, every side, in crinoid colonies.
huge
Huge,
crinoids.
like
Giant
giant.
crinoids.
Like the Houston Museum of Natural Science has this like showcase standout fossil. It's this giant slab of rock from Holzmaden. It's like 16 feet tall, has a piece of driftwood with these like multiple crinoids on it, and each crinoid stem is like 8 feet long, and they are like perfectly preserved.
And when you
It's
say
crazy.
multiple crinoids, you're talking like I'm looking at a picture of it right now. You're talking like 100 crinoids. Like there are so many.
No, no,
Some of the
some
pieces of
some of that
driftwood are
is
like 12 feet long, covered in hundreds of crinoids.
some of that is still privately owned, and so you can see it for sale at like the Tucson Gem Show sometimes, where it's
There's
just
a
like
lot of
these
ichthyosaurs though.
massive ones.
Yeah. And in comparison, so that's
Uh,
Jurassic. The Kaibab is Permian, and that's just kind of a an Arizona shout out to Zeke and I.
What's
Uh,
up? Literally,
it
my first paleontology lab, they're like, all right, so instead of like learning anything or going over the lecture, here's like a quick syllabus, and we're gonna get on the bus and go to South Campus and look for fossils on the Kaibab. It's like literally my first fossil expedition was the Kaibab limestone to see if we found anything. We found like a couple sponges, some productive brachiopods, a couple other brachiopods.
Yeah, in all fairness, the Kaibab really doesn't even deserve to be on this to
oh
be
my
facing
God.
off the Posidonia, but to give it a shot, think the very top layer of the Grand Canyon. Like if you're walking on the Grand Canyon, you're on the Kaibab limestone. There is a really, really nice and diverse Chondrichthyan fauna from there. And there some of them get pretty large too, like Kaibabinator. And Chase, you said earlier Neocyvotus, that's a small one, but that's also from the Kaibab. And we get a really cool Chondrichthyan with a patelodont style tooth, which is Megatinopatelis, which is basically a megalodon sized patelodont style tooth with multiple really jagged cusps on it. And they're massive. Like you're talking like a tooth plate like that.
Wow.
Well, and
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting about the sharks of the Kaibab is the person who described basically all of these never got a master's, like he didn't get into a master's program, but he was just really dedicated about these sharks. So he had a geology degree, but then just went independently to describe the sharks of the Kaibab limestone, which I
Risk.
think is just like a great example of how like you don't necessarily need a perfect education to go become a paleontologist that publishes things, that adds value to science.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Tom Olson.
Uh,
He's on a lot of them. But
Yeah, that might be
anyways,
it then. I also just want to shout out the ecosystem. If you think about like the entire Gulf of Mexico or America, depending on how much you want to deal with the naming of things, uh, I think it's stupid, regardless. Um, that's basically what would have existed in Arizona. You would have had this massive gulf, um, kind of going to the southwest, because I'm bad at directions, the southwest, and that's kind of what this limestone was this massive reef system that would have been off the coast of of Arizona, northern Arizona.
yeah.
Well,
So
I think let's see versus Pasadena Shale. I don't think the Kaibab is winning this one. Let's be
I don't
real.
think it does either,
What?
but I love it.
Really not
I'd
inherently
vote
convinced.
Kaibab. Kaibab's got a butt-shaped brachiopod and stuff. It's pretty cool.
I'm actually
Oh,
not
the
fully
productives?
convinced the Kaibab wins
Yeah.
against any other formation.
Well, and sometimes you
No.
get the productives with like the little nubs on them too.
Yeah, don't you
That's
guys like
great.
brachiopods?
What
right?
brachiopod isn't shaped like a butt?
Oh,
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Derbia.
Got me there.
Derbia is not.
still love them, but that's
The
Composita.
Derbia is not.
Yeah, the
winged
what, the
ones.
lingulids? Yeah, those not.
Some people have butt shaped like
Neosporific.
that. It's like
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, it just
I'm
depends
just-
on how you turn it around.
flat.
I'm
Dude,
just
I'm looking at some of the fossils from the Posidonia shale right now. Like, there's literally a perfectly preserved fish inside of an ammonite because it was eating the
Oh my
the
God.
ammonite's flesh out of it, and then it just got buried. Like, this is OP. It's like unfair to put this in this competition. Like, it's crazy.
Damn.
But we get brachiopods this big in the Kaibab.
Dude,
Whoa. Whoa.
Click it.
There-
Go ahead and click the
Mind-blowing.
shale.
I'm looking at a fish right now. It looks like it just had a pile of bullets dumped on it, but it's just belemnites in its belly. Like, this is insane.
well, I mean, has everyone here taken a geology class?
Mhm.
Actually, believe it or not, no. I've never.
Okay, well then for everyone except for Jared, you can tune out. I'm going to give him a geology lesson. So you have transgressions and regressions, which are a transgression is when the sea is starting to cover the land, and you get that sequence of, a nearshore sandstone to a mudstone to a limestone, right?
Mhm.
And so the Kaibab was actually really important for Edwin McKee in the 1950s to actually develop this idea of understanding how the geologic systems change. So the Kaibab limestone has important geologic impact as well.
Yeah, that's true because that is like the fundamental basis of sedimentology and like sequence stratigraphy. That's like the first thing that we went over in that class.
Yeah, that's so funny. I've taken an unusual route into paleo, just being solely bio-focused.
We'll teach you. We got you.
So I think Posidonia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm.
Listen, I gave it a good try.
I appreciate it. I figured the Kaibab at least should get some representation. Our next one's really interesting. The Agua Nueva
Oh, this one's
Formation
awful.
versus Bear
There
Gulch.
you go.
Dude, okay. Can I talk
This is
about-
like group of death type stuff if you were doing it
Okay,
in a group format.
dude, I'm willing to die for this, dude. Okay, so Agua Nueva. For those who don't know, this is like Agua Nueva Formation is kind of a recent thing. It's this formation in Mexico. It preserves fossils from the Turonian stage of the Cretaceous period. So we're talking like 90 million years here. 90 million to 93, 94 million, something like that. So anyway, what this has been producing recently, it's this really fine grained limestone, and it has produced the most beautiful Turonian aged shark fossils, such as Aquila lamna, the beautifully preserved Tychodus body fossils, and multiple of them in a recent paper that dropped. Plesiosaur Mauriciosaurus, and like if you just look up the Mauriciosaurus fossil, it is stunning. It's breathtaking. It looks like it came out of the German formations that we've been talking about. It's insane. And then on top of that, you also have early mosasaurs. So yes, I study early mosasaurs and I'm hugely biased, but to have beautiful, like perfectly articulated mosasaurs just starting to kind of show up in the Agua Nueva Formation is pretty cool. That's where Jaguarosaurus regiomontanus was described from just a couple years ago. And so what I personally find, and also the really basal mosasaurs that one calls quote unquote agylosaurs, Viasiosaurus, for example, those are really just, let's be real, they're just primitive mosasaurs. And yeah, this place, the Agua Nueva Formation, I think the only reason it is not ultra world famous is just because it's kind of a new thing. This isn't one of those sites that's existed for like 100 years, 200 years. It's really starting to shine in the last few years. Maybe in the 2000s, it started getting really heavily published on. And there are lots of fish as well. This of the Cretaceous Lagerstätte is probably one of the best that you can get. I'd honestly rather go here than the Niobrara because I feel like the Niobrara has been overly explored by this point. Like the Agua Nueva has a lot of potential for some bombshell papers in the future.
Yeah. So Tychodus, the Durophagous shark lineage from the Cretaceous, the whole reason that we know now that it's a lamniform as opposed to a hybodontiform, like people used to think for, I think, at least 100 years, if not more, is because we have soft tissue preservation of it from this formation. So,
Yeah.
in terms of soft tissue articulated shark fossils that look like sharks that we would recognize if we were to see them in the ocean today, like this is the place. But soft tissue preservation, articulated sharks that we might not recognize as modern sharks, Bear Gulch. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's great. Look up a picture of Echinochimera meltni.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
you can check out my YouTube video on it.
Yeah, or check out his YouTube video on it. Yeah, yep.
Zeke,
Yeah.
what will make you feel nice is when you Google Echinochimera and you hit images, the thumbnail of your YouTube video is like way up high. So it's good.
Yeah, Bear
I'll
Gulch
take it.
is the carboniferous Lagerstätten for chondrichthyans, in my opinion. The diversity is so high, especially with things that aren't even described. There's like these entire articulated remains that are like completely new to science that just have not been worked on for who knows why. But yeah, like we said, a Echinochimera, that's awesome.
I think
Well,
that you are underselling it because you get all of the chondrichthyes, sure, but then you have early coelacanths, early actinomyopterygians, which I always struggle to say. You get like early mantis shrimp. You get some of these relatives of the chelicerates, right? Some of these weird chelicerate groups that are popping in. So things related to horseshoe crabs and scorpions and such. Um, you really get a great image of the entire ecosystem. And well, I get the Agua Nueva formation is being developed much more with, modern techniques, modern excavation and such. I think the amount of fossils that have already been found in Bear Gulch, plus the amount of data there is available on them, makes it much more reasonable to start making ecological inferences, which is something I'm more interested in. Because you get everything down from like, these little invertebrates, worms and things, all the way up to some of these larger chondrichthyans. And I think that's really neat about the Bear Gulch.
And
Plus,
Yeah.
the way that the Bear Gulch was deposited, or at least the theories of, are really interesting. So a lot of the chondrichthyans, a lot of the just generally a lot of the animals are more bottom dwelling, and the way they find them, at least the way Grogan and Lund described it, is you have these like laminated shales that change in color, these sequential changes in shales that are almost assuredly seasonal because they only find the chondrichthyans and all these other really well preserved fossils in one formation or like in one shale lithology, so one shale type, um, alternating the higher you go up the section. And the hypothetical reason for this is when they find these fossils of these fishes, they all have these like I forget, I think it's descended gills. They have this same gill preservation that suggests that they died from asphyxia. And so the thought is during the wet season, runoff, maybe from fresh water, maybe from just more sediment into the environment, would cause this low oxygen environment, like the further down and into the water column you got, and they would kill off some of these like lower, these kind of more benthic fishes, which is really, really, really interesting.
And to go back to Echinochimera with that, there's statistically an oddly high number of males versus females because they have claspers, so you can tell from the fossils, which
Mhm.
suggests even just ecologically they're doing different things, which as far as I know, you can't quite get from the Agua Nueva formation.
Well, we can
So far.
even find things like sexual dimorphism from the Bear Gulch. Like at the Tucson show, for example, I did a short video on two falcata specimens that like perfectly highlight how important Bear Gulch is. You have one that does not have this really unique fin spine that is present where like a dorsal fin would be. So one doesn't have that, and then you have one that does, and you clearly see that the females do not have that, and it's a sexually dimorphic trait that only males possess, that really unique fin spine. And if you want to look at another really unique chondrichthyon within Bear Gulch, we were talking about Patelodonts. Balancia montana looks insane. Like, if you saw that thing swimming around, you would have no idea what that was.
Yeah, and that also, the Balancy example is great because we have the liver pigment in that fossil of Balancy montana. We also get eye pigment, we get gut contents, get everything. I mean, it is crazy when you start getting pigments in the fossil record, especially in the Paleozoic.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just putting that out there.
I was gonna bring up Falcatus too, because if this is a video, this is like the picture to include to sum up Bear Gulch. It's this one fossil of two Falcatus, one with the big fin spine that you talked about that like represents the male, the one without it, that's the female. And they're actually in the act of mating, where the female is biting on to the male's fin spine, and that's what's anchoring her on so that they can mate. And they were preserved fossilized like that together.
Bleh.
Yeah, I'm going Bear
really
Gulch all
rare.
the way.
Yeah,
Jared,
I
I
and
feel
then
like you still
Gulch.
had.
yeah, Bear Gulch is the
Jared,
play.
hang
You
on.
do also get
Hang on. I feel like Jared still had one more thing to say about the Agua Nueva.
Yeah, go ahead,
Okay.
Jared.
Fight.
Now, what I have to say is that Bear Gulch is also in Montana, which is dope as hell. Very, very Yellowstone. So can't fight against that. However, I do have a suspicion. I am a very strong believer in the Agua Nueva, dude. I have a very strong suspicion that in the next few decades, the Agua Nueva might be viewed in equal stature as something like the Bear Gulch. Like, there's probably some crazy stuff that's yet to be found, and it's only because it's been getting developed for a very short amount of time compared to something like the Bear Gulch that, yeah, maybe one day it'll compete. But face value right now, looking at the two as they are right now, the Bear Gulch is definitely ahead. So I know Agua Nueva has potential. I'm still going to vote for Agua Nueva, but I am not mad about it losing. I would just say that give it some years, and then you guys will eat y'all's words.
As a
Give it
late
5 years, we'll do a retake on this one.
Yeah. As a late Cretaceous mosasaur researcher, Maastrichtian mosasaurs, I am voting Bear Gulch. I don't really like the lizard guys.
This is devastating.
I know, I'm sorry.
So that brings us to the last one before we get to the next phase of the competition. We have the Gogo Formation versus the Solnhofen Limestone.
Dog. Who is not picking Solnhofen?
Yeah, out of this whole competition, if we're going just based on Lagerstätten, and if you throw in historical significance too, for the heck of it, the Solnhofen is the GOAT. It is the GOAT.
Another German formation too. Like, I feel like we kind of sometimes forget to say where these are. The Solnhofen is yet another German and beautiful, pristine, amazing fossil site. The Gogo, I don't even know about it, and that's
Yeah, you don't know about it. You want to know about it? It has 3-dimensional soft tissue, including embryos with the umbilical cord, for the first or the oldest evidence of live birth in the fossil record.
Gogo Formation.
And it's in Australia,
man.
and it's
In
Lake
Australia.
Devonian.
It's the sleeper pick of the decade.
It really is. Like, I thought about it for a second. I'm like, actually, these are much closer than I was thinking.
They are.
The three-dimensional preservation definitely boots it up there. Also, I'm pretty sure the preservation is so good that muscle bundles, nerve cells, and then umbilical structures, which is how we know about the live birth, all of those have been found preserved in the Gogo.
Dude, actually,
Yes.
okay,
Yes.
pause. For people who are listening to this who are uneducated like me, more unwashed masses that have not heard about the Gogo, I'm Googling this right now. Just look up Gogo Formation. This is the most bizarre preservation of bone I think I've ever seen. I'm looking at this Devonian coelacanth right now. Have you ever walked along like a muddy creek and found a dead fish, like a dead carp? It looks like that. Like, this looks like it died yesterday. And I'm not saying that as a metaphor. I wouldn't even think this was a fossil. Like everything is so thin and well preserved. Looks like it's made out of porcelain. That's crazy.
And it's still white too, which is the thing.
Yeah.
All the bones are white.
I mean, these go-go fossils look better preserved, and I think they are better preserved than the Solnhofen fossils,
Yeah.
which
They
is
are too.
which is like
That's saying something.
that
Dude.
is saying something.
I'm doing a hard right turn. I'm after seeing these two go-go fishes right now on Google Images, just from typing in go-go formation. I scroll down like not even that far. These are insane. They
Oh
look
yeah, they're nutty. I know there's still a lot of work going on here because this is a more recent one, and I think it's Alice Cribb is I think the person who's been doing stuff with this. I think 'cause I know she's an Australian researcher. I'm trying to remember if it's her or not. Regardless, there's still people who are working on this formation actively. And like you're getting it's also interesting because you're getting some Eurypterids from it. So Eurypterids still
Ooh.
aren't entirely out. Uh, Also really importantly, it's a Eurypter. It's the more swimming predatory type of Eurypterid, from my understanding, as opposed to kind of like the bottom dwelling ones. So you're getting this really interesting transition of fish starting to become common, but still not being totally dominant in the environment.
Another cool one is Gogo Salakis, which is one of the only known chondrichthyans, and I guess the only one that's known from here that isn't, or that's at least described that isn't an acanthodian. And they have bone cells preserved within it, which is evidence that some chondrichthyans once had bone within their skeletons, which is completely different than what we see with like modern sharks, which are pretty much completely cartilaginous in their skeletons. So that was really cool too.
And you spoke to the guy who discovered Gogo Salakis and
Yeah,
one of
John Long.
John Long. Yeah, this is really cool. I'm not gonna lie, I'm a huge fan of Lagerstätte, obviously, but Lagerstätte that's new that we don't know much about yet. I'll go into information. Anyway, stuff like that, I'm a huge fan of. So the fact that the Gogo is pretty undeveloped compared to the Solnhofen is like points in my book. I'm dying on the Gogo formation right now, but we do have to remember that the Solnhofen is where like the original Archaeopteryx was found and all
I
of
was
that.
gonna say, I was gonna say that the if we end up choosing Gogo, which is what it sounds like, the dinosaur paleontologists are gonna want our heads.
Okay, but here's important. Where did Archaeopteryx live? Did
Oh,
it live in the ocean?
Oh, that's
Let's
true.
go.
That's true.
To be fair, in Solnhofen, we have complete early cow sharks that are preserved. We have these really cool horn sharks, early horn sharks preserved. We have these early angel sharks that are completely preserved.
lots
We have
of
hybodonts.
lots of inverts as well. Lots of dude, just googling this is crazy. Like lots of shrimp and crabs and decapods and echinoderms. Um, good lord, ammonites. Yeah, there's cool stuff in the Solnhofen. Let's be real. This is crazy. We put the two craziest Lagerstätten ever together and making them fight. This is nuts.
Well, after this round, it's also going to go up against Bear Gulch.
We done.
This is wild.
Why? I am leaning Solnhofen because of how complete a lot of the chondrichthyans are, and that's completely my bias. If you're an early vertebrate researcher, I think that the Gogo is far more important. And I think, I don't know, they're both very unique.
They're very
Yes,
Mhm.
they are very unique. I'm leaning Go-Go simply because you get such a good diversity of some early chondrichthyans, but also some early bony jawed fish that aren't, placoderms. I'm not sure exactly where that difference is, but you don't necessarily have them all being armored. So you're able to start doing a lot more work on kind of how the um, modern fish to tetrapod lineages started to develop. So that's where I would go.
This is cool. Honestly, I think, look, the Solnhofen we've known about for decades and decades and decades. I know it's an old fossil site and very important historically, but I think that there is no reason to bet against the go-go becoming as important, if not more important, in coming decades. Just based on the preservation of these fish that I'm looking at, it's absurd. I've never seen a well-preserved fossil before, like genuinely.
And I think also just like this is the only site we have like this for the go-go, right? Solnhofen, we have other sites with fish preserved from the Jurassic and
Yeah.
with crustaceans preserved from the Jurassic
Plus-
and with birds preserved from the Jurassic.
Plus,
This is the only one we have with all of the stuff that we're finding in the go-go.
exactly. And Germany has their fair share of Lagerstätten. Like Australia needs a dub. This is their dub.
This is their win, yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The upside down W, the M, if you will.
Yes,
So-
I'm picking go. I'm ready.
Yeah, go.
Yep.
Sea scorpions.
Wow. That took a turn.
Upset of the century.
That is
Dinosaur
a turn right
paleontologists are
there.
gonna have our heads. We are
Oh, yeah.
cooked.
You chose the wrong
Wow. See, that I'm shocked at. So on to our next round. We have the Niobrara chalk versus the Bangor
Ooh,
limestone.
Dude, this is the easiest. This is a slot.
Niobrara.
This Niobrara.
Niobrara, bro.
Banger. I'm sorry. Niobrara without a doubt.
I'm going to agree on that.
Sorry, Chase.
I have a little bit of doubt too, but also
I can't
yeah.
Does everyone
have
agree? on
like the
that, bro?
invert diversity.
No.
What's the
Womp
invert
womp
diversity in the
inverts.
Niobrara? Oh, you have a bunch of flat clams. Great. That's
The
so
invert-
cool.
I mean,
Oh, you have
actually, a
Rudis
lot of that.
bivalve. So great.
I mean, you say that, but a lot of the Niobrara chalk, because it and other Western Interior Seaway deposits cover so much area, they've used a lot of that to calibrate and test like punctuated equilibrium and very fundamental ideas of evolution. So I still got to give it to Niobrara here.
Boo, I'm just kidding.
Amen.
I don't have any. I can't deny that the Niobrara is better in this regard.
Amen.
Yeah.
The easiest choice ever. That took so little discussion.
Oh no, I think the
Can't deny Niobrara it.
Stephen. Oh boy.
Pisco. I thought
Versus
Oh,
valiantly for the Favorite. It's the Pisco
Fav-
formation.
Favorite versus Pisco. Dude, that's great. I'm picking.
Oh, I think it is the Pisco.
To be fair, the Favorite still is more unique than the Pisco, faunally at least.
Dude.
It
But
offers more,
Megalodon,
but
that's the problem here.
Hey, I would like to say this is my second time seeing the Favorite formation. I don't even remember what's found. It did not leave much of an impression on me. So
I'm looking it up right now.
It's the one with all the
Favorite-
Simospondylus ones, the Triassic Kraken, and also the Pseudotsuchian Bangladesia that got washed into the ocean. The Pisco
Nevada-
formation, meanwhile, I have more information on it that I will drop later as we get more competitive.
Oh,
Pisco. I'm going Pisco. Nevada's cool, but
I
I'm going
still would
okay,
agree with Pisco,
yeah.
but I don't think it's like the wash that we would think.
Yeah, it's closer than we're making it.
Yeah. So our next one is the
Oh.
Stephen Formation versus the
Shit.
Posidonia Shale.
Yeah, this
Obviously,
is
Steven.
I think
I think so.
Come on, guys.
I
Come
think I'd
on.
agree
The
with that.
Pinnacle of life, the cradle, the soup we all crawled out of.
Stefan.
This is the toughest one I think that we have.
The Posidonia is great at telling us about big dead marine reptiles that have no living relatives. The Stefan Formation and Burgess Shale is great at telling us about the origins of a lot of modern groups. So I'm
Some
going
of
with the
the-
Stefan
which-
Formation.
I
Yeah,
have to agree.
Yeah, I'm gonna
there's
say the
dudes in there
Stefan-
that have no modern relatives too.
Yeah, the Stefan Formation is something that that I think is scientifically way more significant, but the Posidonia is something that I would rather have like hanging on my wall.
Yeah. I'd rather. Okay, I would. If you had to, if a magical genie gave me a free airplane ticket and a week to go to either of these, and they're like, all right, make whatever TikToks and YouTubes you want, dig as much as you want, I would pick the Posidonia probably in a heartbeat. Actually, like I don't think I would go to the Stephen, or the Stefan, or however you pronounce it. I wouldn't go there, but
More marketable.
Huh?
more marketable.
It is more marketable. I can make some pretty cool field excursion videos there. But the Stephen formation, I understand it's the weight that it has on paleontology and understanding the history of life on Earth. I think if we threw in an Ediacaran formation here, it would lose to that because
Nah, Mount Stephen would not lose to Ediacaran.
Because you
What
have like a flap of jelly.
Dickinsonia and
Take
Sharnia
alert.
versus like Hallucigenia and Anomalocaris? Come on. A dinner plate versus a spiky worm and a massive killer shrimp.
okay.
A
I'm
sea
gonna
pen?
go-
Come
Opinions,
on.
but
I'm gonna go Stephen formation because I love like the stems of things and like when things are weird and they don't have anything like what's alive today. The Posidonia is just like really good at what it is, but there really isn't much like this Stephen formation. And then paired with the historical significance too.
mm, yeah, I'm going with
All
the
for it.
I'm going with the
Get the
Stephen.
clean sweep, actually.
Let's
Yeah,
go.
Steven as well.
So our next one is Bear Gulch versus Gogo.
Oh,
I
Oh,
I thought valiantly for Bear
they're
Gulch, but
so
I think this is
similar.
Go-Go to me.
I think it is
I'm
too.
Bear
It's the
Gulch.
the quality of preservation is so much better.
But I like the taxa in Bear Gulch.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Bear Gulch has some
I've
odd
published
stuff.
on the Bear Gulch taxa, and here I am going against them.
Traitor.
Honestly,
I know.
I might change my mind if I've had time to digest this, but I am so pleasantly like I feel like there comes a point where you're interested in paleontology for a few years, like really invested in it, and you kind of stop being surprised by preservations or particular geologic formations, and you kind of know all the really famous stuff. And so I'm titillated. I am very pleasantly surprised to have just learned about a formation that I had no idea about with the craziest preservation I've seen in my life. Like that is impressioned me. The Go-Go, I'm kind of gonna die on this hill.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Go-Go, despite the fact that the ghosts of the overdevoted pedlodonts that I've published on are gonna come back and haunt me and bite me, but they're like that big, so it's not gonna hurt.
The Go-Go is
We're good.
3D soft tissue. I don't think you beat that very easily.
No,
And Bear Gulch is wonderful, but I don't think you beat it.
I agree.
I guess I'm outvoted.
Go.
That is such an underdog formation right there.
Yes.
It is. It's the March Madness, the Cinderella.
Yeah, we're on the
It's the
semifinals right
It's
now.
the 16 seed
Oh,
making
boy.
a run.
It is.
We have the Niobrara Chalk versus the Pisco formation.
Pisco
Oh.
wins. I'm sorry.
Pisco.
Oh.
Pisco.
Nah.
Pisco.
The Pisco
Niobrara,
you
come
can
on.
do. Okay, so here's my info drop as we're getting closer. So you can actually find fossils in the Pisco Formation by flying over it and using ground penetrating radar to detect the is it dolomite that's the other carbonate? The magnesium carbonate, right? Yeah. You can detect the density difference because the fossils in there have dolomite concretions around them. So you can detect where the fossils are by flying over the formation and using ground penetrating radar. It's been great for testing some of these methods.
Well, like theoretically, you could probably do the same thing in the chalks. In the Niobrara chalks.
Are you sure? Because are the mineralogies that different that it's going to show a different density?
I don't think so.
Like, okay, I'm not positive, but I know like a lot of these Texas formations, a lot of Cretaceous formations in general, at least in Texas that I'm familiar with, have a lot of iron in the bones. I don't know specifically in the Niobrara if that's the case, but it would not surprise me in the slightest because I don't know. That'll be but here's the thing. Look, Pauls. So I think if you were to take a scuba diver, okay, and you put him in the Pisco Formation paleo environment and the Niobrara Formation paleo environment, he's gonna be super scared regardless. But the more alien one, and arguably, the more alien one, the one that looks more unfamiliar and arguably probably scarier, I would say, is the Niobrara. It's just
then a 60-foot Leviathan with its family.
dude, they're big.
Or
sea-
Megalodon.
40-foot
The 60-foot
sea
megalodon?
lizard? Like, come on.
dude, dude,
I
big
think we need to be fair.
versus big
We're
sharks.
look- I think the big thing we're getting to is these are very similar threat levels, which means I think we need to look at preservation. And if you're looking at preservation, the Pisco Formation wins.
I don't
No,
think
it
so though.
doesn't.
Look at the Zepactinus skeletons.
Yeah,
Look
with
at
the stomach
diversity of the
content.
Pisco.
And
Niobrara is just as diverse, no?
dude, pause. Let me
I
put
guess.
let me
Pause.
context.
So many
Pause.
pauses.
Let me put this into context. I have a friend of mine a couple years ago found a mosasaur in Texas that has soft tissue, and this is a big deal. Like this is a big deal specimen. It's crazy. It's as far as I understand, it's one of the only ones known from Texas, and Texas has really good preservation of other mosasaurs in general. Like that's huge. In Kansas, I don't want to say it's casual, but there are a lot of mosasaurs with soft tissue in Kansas. And to get those tiny, tiny, tiny little scales to preserve, get things like tracheal rings that some of these Platycarpus specimens have, dude, the soft tissue preservation in Niobrara is not to be scoffed at. It is very impressive. So
Do, do
I
those do those come with melanosomes, or is that just Pisco Formation where you can actually tell the colors of the fossils?
Oh, we've got colors on mosasaur skin, right?
I
I've
don't
heard
know.
something like that.
We
Or
do.
at least shading, right?
We do. I kind of have to bite my tongue because I know of a couple that aren't published, and one of the ones I'm thinking of is not from the Smoky Hill. And sorry, Smoky Hill Chalk is a member of the Niobrara. That's like the most prolific member of it. So I kind of use them interchangeably. But the Niobrara, I'm sure, like here, I bet I can Google this in 2 seconds. Like with the soft tissue preservation on some of these mosasaurs, I'll be kind of shocked if they don't have.
Since I'm back after my phone died, I will go to bat for my favorite formation. So, in terms of soft tissue preservation, there are fish that have preserved gut tracts in 3 dimensions because they're endocast where they were filled in with sediment after it died. There's obviously the Zepactinus fish within a fish. There are giant inoceramid clams that, because these clams are like 6 feet across, some of them would stay open for periods of time, filtering sediment, and then would close. And there's a few that have entire schools of fish that were sheltering inside. And then when the clam closed, all the fish suffocated, and they're all preserved inside, perfectly articulated, soft tissue outlines. So we've got that going for it too. And then, like what Jared said, there's the tracheal rings on the mosasaurs.
Cartilage.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
they're it's crazy. It's crazy. And honestly, like I'm more interested in taxonomy than specific soft tissue preservation. So I've never really looked in the research to see if melanosomes have been preserved in Niobrara mosasaurs, but like I'll tell you, I'll be surprised. I'll be quite surprised if there are no melanosomes in some of these specimens, because I mean the preservation is outrageous on some of them.
Also, I will say for the Niobrara, first time that Cretaceous seabirds were discovered, Marsh found Ichthyornis, the first bird with teeth. Then there's Hesperornis. In terms of a diverse faunal assemblage, I think the Niobrara might have the Pisco beat, because you also do get bivalves and gastropods and some ammonites, not a lot. And then you have at least 60 plus types of fish. There are at least 15 to 20 types of sharks. There's probably somewhere around the range of like 15 genera of mosasaurs. So, yeah, it's stacked.
Yeah, I'm dying on this hill, dude.
There are at least 26 different species of a whale alone in the Pisco Formation, and multiple of these marine sloths. I
And
have
a bunch of
feeling
marine birds.
Dude,
there are a ton of marine birds. It looks like there's about 6 marine seals, which kind of, well, as if there's a non-marine seal. I think there actually is a non-marine seal. If I
there is.
There's
recall
one.
correctly. Yeah, one. thus making me kind of
Crocodilians
correct.
as well. So like this is some of the last stand of marine crocodilians.
Ooh.
Dude,
Now,
dude.
technically, I mean, I don't know exactly where we land on if it's in the formation, but it's not a marine animal, if it counts. But we know next to nothing about dinosaurs from the eastern half of the Western Interior Seaway. So on Appalachia, as opposed to Laramidia, there is one hadrosaur and two nodosaurs that come from the Niobrara chalk.
Yeah, I feel like there are more low key. I feel like there
I
are
think there are
quite a
more.
few
Yeah.
dinosaurs known from the Niobrara. Also,
I think there are
also
more.
in some parts of the Niobrara, one of the most common fossils that one finds are pterosaurs, because pterosaurs are just in huge abundance in parts of the Niobrara. I'm just saying, dude, it is slept on. And you can't forget the history of Copen Marsh and the bone wars that went down there. Like, it has more relevance to the history of paleontology. It probably has, I will say, equal preservation with the Pisco Formation.
If you go in any major natural history museum in the world, chances are 9 to 10 you will find something from the Niobrara chalk, but not something from the Pisco Formation.
Well, that's also the laws in
The
Peru.
fossil export
I was
out
gonna
of
say, you're literally sitting here like,
Biased.
well, colonialism makes this one better.
True. Okay, but of the things that you find in the Pisco Formation.
There are
Yeah, Niobrara is more iconic, right?
Yes, yeah.
Mhm.
Also, yeah, if we're gonna rate things from the Paleozoic higher because they have more unique fauna that are further removed from what we have now, then the Niobrara also beats the Pisco because we have sharks that are like that, just not that size. We have this is like the beginning of like the baleen whale lineage. We have baleen whales and things like that, but almost everything from the Niobrara, like the toothed birds, you have the mosasaurs, you have plesiosaurs, you have at least I think maybe one type of pliosaur that's still stuck around. Maybe not. I'm not sure.
Polycotylids, yeah.
not
Yeah.
in the Niobrara, but yeah, you
Yeah.
do have the leptocytid, please, like polycotylids. And I
Mhm.
would say there are loads of non-teleost fishes in the Niobrara as well. And we're kind of used to teleosts these days. So that's another thing. Even the fish were different. So I'm just saying.
This is also when the teleost lineage diversified for the first time is around the Coniacian, Santonian, and the Cretaceous. Before that, you didn't really have them, like in those numbers.
We did kind of Old Yeller Archaeopteryx because it isn't marine. So let's not count the dinosaurs in this.
Okay, yeah, we'll take the dinosaurs out. Take the dinosaurs out.
It's still solos. I'm just saying. Without the dinosaurs, it's still solos.
I mean, yeah, but you have like the last bastion of gigantic macropredatory sharks in the Pisco. I mean,
With
what you've
good
got?
preservation.
Yeah, with good preservation. I mean, you've got Paratodus benedni, you've got the Megalodon lineage, Carcharicles or Otodus, whatever your heart desires. I don't think. I mean, well, Megalolamna's in the formation that underlies it, not
Yeah,
the
the Chilcote.
Pisco itself. Though that Bone Valley specimen, it's probably a Megalolamna. You've got the big old non-serrated and serrated great whites or white sharks, whatever. What else? Am I missing any, Ben?
Hemipristis is
It's
much
true.
bigger than like the Hemipristis around today, and they would have been pretty decent size.
Yeah, I mean,
Parkland.
I mean, everything is like supersized too. I mean, you get like these mako shark teeth that are like, gigantic.
Get large Hexanchus teeth too.
Hmm.
Here, I will word it like this.
Oh boy.
The Pisco is a great place if you like fossils that you can't own. Sharks.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
the Niobrara is a great place if
Okay.
you like fossils that you can go and see anywhere in the world. You can own if you like reptiles, be it any major group of reptiles. Like, dude, you have the lizards, so squamates are represented. You have plesiosaurs also in the Niobrara. We haven't even talked about the plesiosaurs in the Niobrara. You have loads of fishes and you have diverse types of fish. I'm just saying, there's
That
more.
sounds like
I will say,
formation
all right,
gatekeeping.
but you don't have crocodilians.
There is one crocodilian, I think, that might be in
Are there
it.
crocodilians in the Niobrara?
I think there is one, and it's fragmentary.
Okay, so the Pisco Formation wins out because it has more.
Okay, well, I will say my last word in defense of the Niobrara is in terms of some of the most famous animals in paleontology. The Pisco has Megalodon, obviously, Leviathan, which is a lot more recent, but is like becoming like a well-known name. But in the Niobrara, you have all of these mosasaurs, like Tylosaurus for one. You have Platycarpus. You also have Elasmosaurus. You have Archelon and Protostega for sea
And the Bone
turtles.
Wars.
And the Bone Wars.
Dude.
You have Ichthyornis and Hesperornis, the toothed birds. You have Zephactinus for fish. You have the Ginsu shark and the crow shark in Cretoxyrhina and Squalocorax. I mean, these are famous. And Pteranodon, the Pteranodon.
Yeah, like pterodactyl, like what people think of when they think the word pterodactyl.
And had Pterodactylus.
Oh, never mind. I'm wrong. But when I
Like actually the pterodactyl.
when people think pterodactyls, what they have in their head is probably pteranodon. That's how I would word that.
Yeah. But like low key, the Pisco, not even low key, the Pisco Formation sharks are like honestly way better
But
than the Niobrara ones. And I say that with a Squalocorax tattoo on my shoulder. I'm just saying.
Okay, we've been on this one for a bit now.
Yeah, we have.
We got to vote.
We gotta vote. Let's do it.
I'm coming from a shark background that I personally love sharks in both of these, but I think if I'm looking at it overall, and I just love the preservation. I love the fauna of the Niobrara. I've hunted the Niobrara. I'm gonna go Niobrara on this.
We win. Let's go.
I'm gonna take that Niobrara.
It's okay because this is going to be the only thing from the Cretaceous that's gonna survive. Tullabuck is gone. Yeah, we need something from the Cretaceous.
I guess.
So our next semifinalists are the Stefan Formation versus the Gogo Formation.
Dude.
You guys know in sports, in like for example, since I'm an Alabama person, you know, like the SEC championship, and then they go on to absolutely destroy the person in the national championship. That's what this one is. I'm gonna be completely real with you.
Yeah, that's fair. This is the real final.
This is the real final, like actually.
Spain, Germany, 2024 Euros.
This is where no matter what
Anyone
happens
knows
to the
soccer.
Gogo Formation, it's still a winner.
If I need to sway anyone, there's two really cool fossils from Mount Stephen. There is literally the Millennium Falcon preserved in the Burgess Shale. So, Canberra roster falcatus. It is a relative of Anomalocaris. Just picture Anomalocaris in the shape of a Millennium Falcon, and that guy's in Mount Stephen Formation.
You said
It's
Canberra
insane.
what?
Canberra raster. Roster, however you want to
Oh, there it
pronounce
is.
it.
Canberra
I believe
Raster
it's
falcatus.
Raster, yeah.
Yeah.
What in
Yeah.
the world? Little
It's
goofy
insane.
goober.
It's this little like sift feeding guy, I believe, right?
Yeah,
That's the idea.
it's instead of the raptorial appendages, they're filter feeding ones, which is pretty neat.
Well,
It would go down to the seafloor and sift through the sediment.
Yeah.
Why are his eyes so far back?
It was a wacky one.
I think that the
You
Stephen
can't
Formation
just-
win. I think that the Stefan Formation wins just because what in the world is that? Is what you say about every single thing that you find there. I mean, that's it's just
Don't we
so
find
alien.
the first example of a notochord in the Stefan Formation?
Yeah, Pacaya and its relative Metasprigina, early notochords, our first ancestors, or I guess earliest chordate notochord, blah 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 ancestors.
I will say, one thing that you do miss in the Stefan Formation is the thylacocephalians. Anyone know what a thylacocephalian is? Arthropods? No?
No,
So take your basic shrimp body plan, make it armored, and give it two giant eyes at the front of it.
Horrifying.
Is that the alien one where it's got these limbs hanging down below it
Yes.
and it looks like a balloon? Oh
Yes,
my god.
they have some of
Yeah.
those from the Go-Go Formation. If you've seen like the 2009 or whatever it is with Tom Cruise, the War of the Worlds, the tripods in there, that's basically what this is in the water, swimming around.
I can't not vote for the Go-Go Formation. Like I'm pulling up images.
Hold on. Hold on, I got another one. There's a worm that builds its own condos in the Mount Stephen. So
Isn't that just a
Oesia,
bryozoan?
no, Oesia is it's not really a worm. It's kind of related to chordates, I think, or something. But it creates this tower, which was originally thought to be algae. It's called Margaretia doris, and it can be found in like Utah and every other Cambrian deposit. And it's got these holes in it that form this like structure. So it would like build these towers. I don't know out of what. Um, that were like architecturally some of the first like how do I word it? The worms were building it in a way that they knew they could build it tall with like these round holes in the walls or whatever. So just picture like the seafloor covered in these condos and these worms living in the condos. So instead of like burrowing into the ground, they burrowed into the sky with these things. Um, they might be colonial animals that they co-live with or whatever, but it's all up in the air because it's just so bizarre. So to me, it's another big thing for the Cambrian. Worm
Yeah,
condos.
I'm
This
gonna
one's
go the
tough.
Steph information.
Yay!
Well, I'm going to point out there's 6 of us, which is an even number, so we
Oh,
might
no.
run into an impasse. So I'm just going to hold my vote. Thanks.
Stephen Formation, historical significance. It's like such I mean, the Cambrian is so long ago with such, I mean, to get something from that long ago with such good preservation, all these creatures that we for like the longest time didn't know from anywhere else until pretty recently, now that we have the stuff coming out of China that's from a comparatively similar time period. I mean, it's got to win.
Can we get one more vote for the Steph information?
Dude, I am so
Please.
torn. Oh,
If we have a tie, we'll do the good old fashioned rock, paper, scissors, shoot to see who wins.
It's literally the promise of
Up
the
to
future
fate.
with the go-go versus everything we know from the Stefan.
that way. Stop.
What do you say, Jared?
I said I'm betting the house on the go-go, dude.
No.
Back.
So
You know
we
what?
have we have 3 Steffens, we have 1 go-go and 2 undecideds.
Jared, I'm gonna join you.
Let's go.
Oh, God.
Oh my god.
I'm pulling up pictures.
Backbones, back.
All right.
I said I would hold my vote, so I guess that means you said 3 Stefans, right?
Yeah.
Which sucks because I really do want to pick the go-go formation, but I'm so divided.
Dude, if you are divided, just pull up pictures of go-go fossils and Bear Gulch fossils right now. Compare them.
No, no,
Stefan
no.
formation fossils, rather.
Yeah. Oh.
Go-go sweeps. Can't not pick go-go. Looking at the
I think based on the fact
I think
that we
the
now
Stefan
have
wins.
other Cambrian Lagerstadt, I need to go with the go-go formation. We don't have anything like this anywhere else.
No.
So, Jared, you ready to do the rock, paper, scissors, shoe?
who am I doing it with you?
With me,
Flip
yeah.
a coin. Flip a coin. Like
Rock,
flip
paper,
a coin,
scissors,
flip
shoot.
online.
There will be lag. Yeah, flip a coin.
Yeah, there'll be lag. No, look it up. Look it up online.
Heads is Stefan, tails will be go-go. Is that fair
Yeah.
for the
Mhm.
go-go's?
That's
All
fine.
right, all right.
All right.
Come on. House on it. I bet my house on
Oh no.
Let's go, baby.
Awful.
No way did the go-go make it into
That's
the final.
nuts.
This is
Underdog. Oh my
This is
god.
good.
I've got rent for another month. Let's go. Let's go.
I'll do
The
better next
parlay
time,
hit,
Stefan.
boys.
This is the kind of run that I'm praying A&M has next season. I'm just saying.
So for our final contenders, we have the Niobrara Chalk versus the go-go formation.
Ugh.
On the left, the one you expected. On the right, who?
Ow.
Okay, look. I have to speak soberly here for a second.
Oh boy.
As amazing as the preservation of the go-go formation is, I don't give a rat's butt about coelacanths. So honestly, I'm going with Niobrara.
I think you're just a homebody. I think you're a homebody. That's what this is.
Man, I'd so much rather go hunt the Niobrara than the Go-Go, but I would also love to go hunt the Go-Go. Like I would.
You'd rather go find like 4 associated mosasaur vertebrae than the whole frickin' placoderm with the frickin' umbilical cord on it? Yeah, I don't know, man.
Oh, Graham, I'm curious what your take on this is.
Well, let's see. I would say I would rather hunt in the Niobrara, but that's because of my personal interests and also
Yeah.
because it's just so famous.
If I was,
There is a much higher chance of finding something new in the Go-Go than finding something new in the Niobrara.
that's true.
And because the animals are smaller, you're more likely to find the whole thing versus in the Niobrara. Also, what are the fossils preserved in the Go-Go? I know in the Niobrara it's chalk. It's like I'm planning a fossil hunting expedition right now. I'm basing it on that.
I don't
I don't know
know.
if there's ever been. Let's see. Another section are made of siltstone shale, calcarenite, and numerous limestone concretions.
I was gonna say the concretions is where a lot of like the three-dimensional preservation is. I think it's similar to the Cleveland Shale in that respect.
It's also Lake Devonian.
Okay.
Dude, Gogonasus. Look up the Gogonasus fish skull. That's crazy. Published in Nature in 2006. That's absurd. And this John Long guy is, well, I say this John Long guy as if I don't know who he is. John Long is talking about how it's teaching us about the origin of tetrapods, which is pretty absurd. Look, objectively, I think if you are not invested, like if you're like a Jurassic researcher, if you're not invested in either of these, you might pick the Go-Go. But
see, I think your
I'm
average person would
Triassic, so
pick the
yeah.
Niobrara because of the historical significance, how charismatic the fauna is, the size of the animals, the time in history, like the Cretaceous, the heyday of the dinosaurs.
I
true.
think
And
the nerdier you are, the more
Yes.
likely you are to go to the Go-Go. The more that you're really just like a Jurassic Park fanboy, you'll go to the Niobrara.
So
The
the
Oh
nerdy
my
you,
God.
the
Oh my
nerdier,
God.
I've never been insulted
dude.
in my life.
the
What the
nerdier
hell?
you are. Okay, listen, I feel insulted, but also at least it's accurate.
Hey, I'm also just saying, like on the other end of that is like, yeah, you smelly, unwashed simpletons, go to the Niobrara. Like, I'm just saying.
Friendly fire.
It's crazy. He insulted everyone at once. That's wild. How about that?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, the gorilla brained. Me and gorilla brained Graham are gonna go to Kansas and find a mosasaur. Have fun with your little fish.
Yeah.
Niobrara gets my vote.
Yeah, I'm voting for the Niobrara because I'm interested in it, but I understand that if it loses to the Go-Go, at least it loses to like the craziest thing I've ever seen. Like, if it's gonna lose to someone, it should lose to the Go-Go.
Give me the Go-Go.
I'm gonna go Niobrara. I'm gonna go Jurassic Park fanboy. I'm going Niobrara.
Oh my
It's
God.
split
Way.
because I'm going
No.
Go-Go.
Way.
So
No,
that
we got
means
what?
Brennan, you're
Two
the
to-
tiebreaker.
Oh no, that's awful. Okay. I
Mosasaurs.
love do I do Paleozoic or do I do Mesozoic?
It is
Mosasaurs
scientifically
or-
viable one.
You
Oh,
do the one
God.
that speaks to your heart,
hey,
and your
No.
heart speaks to the Paleozoic.
your heart speaks to
Yes.
most, Brennan. Hey,
I'm
Brennan.
torn. I'm
Who's supposed to
torn.
pay your
Brennan,
rent?
Brennan. Think about it. Brennan. Look at
Yes,
me, guys.
yes.
Okay, how many conferences have you gone to for Paleozoic fish? I'm just saying. None.
Hey,
You're right.
Brent, I'm
What
gonna
about
point
the
out how
publication
many.
potential of Paleozoic versus Mesozoic? That's all I'm
I
wondering.
was gonna say, I also want to point out, like, how many places can you find mosasaurs? How many places can you
Yes.
find 3D soft tissue with embryos?
No.
That's
You know how many
true.
mosasaur fossils I've found in Alabama? A lot. You know
Oh,
how many?
mosasaur fossils? You mean
You know how many
I
dime a
have one right
dozen?
here.
things I found?
Every
Zero.
fossil shop, every eBay shop. Oh my God.
We did literally find fossils at that pie shop's rock.
Yeah, it's just in the middle of nowhere. There's mosasaur teeth, like Arizona. Oh, this is so hard. Early fish. I do like the Go-Go Fishman. He's pretty cool. Uh, out of pure spite that the Go-Go beat out my precious baby Burgashale, and the fact that I study mosasaurs, I will choose
Coin
Niobrara.
flip.
I'm sorry,
Take it to the
Go-Go.
coin flip. God.
Oh. So there's hope. There's
I
hope.
had to avenge them.
This
We're
is Morocco.
cooked.
This is
We're
Morocco
cooked.
getting knocked out of the World Cup all
You
over
know,
again.
Cooked. That's it.
This is Rocky 1, where Rocky Balboa gets
This is my
beat
villain
by
arc.
points, but the crowd still cheers for him because he won because he stood up
Oh,
against
of
the
course.
champion.
You
Yeah.
started my villain arc.
Tyrannical Niobrara formation.
I will find all of the Niobrara fossils and
No.
it's not like I'm gonna burn anything new to science.
Oh, damn.
Oh.
That's foul.
God's
My God, dude. Savage.
That shit hurted a little bit.
Well, with that, if you guys agree or disagree with our picks, please let us know in the comments. Let us know who you think should have won, and do you think that the Go-Go should be revenged or not?
Okay, wait.
original bag fumble.
So we did not have to coin flip on this one.
We did not.
No.
No.
Niobrara won. This
Yeah.
is a
Clear.
this is a baby. Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Please
Go
like, comment,
simpletons.
subscribe. Let us know what you think. We appreciate it.
The best formation did not win because I think the Go-Go was.
You're right.
And I think the Go-Go knocked out formations that could have beat the Niobrara.
It
Like,
did. That's the
Not
kicker.
Steven. Yeah.
God.